Hey there, cyber enthusiasts and job seekers. Welcome to today's video on the top 30 interview questions for cybersecurity analysts. Are you ready to ace your next interview and land that dream job in cybersecurity? Well, you're in the right place. I'm going to walk you through the most common questions you might face, covering behavioral, competency-based, and situational scenarios. So, grab a notepad and let's dive in. Let's kick things off with some behavioral questions. The first question is, tell me about yourself and your background in cybersecurity. For this question, briefly highlight your education, relevant experience, and passion for the field. Mention any certifications or notable projects you've worked on. Here's a sample answer. I hold a degree in computer science and have been working in cybersecurity for 5 years. I'm certified in CompTIA Security Plus and have led several successful projects, including implementing a company-wide multi-factor authentication system. Now, let's move to the second question. Why did you choose a career in cybersecurity? Share your genuine interest in protecting digital assets and fighting cyber threats. You could mention a specific event or experience that sparked your interest in the field. Here's how you might respond. I've always been fascinated by technology, but what drew me to cybersecurity was the constant challenge of staying one step ahead of threats. After experiencing a personal data breach, I became passionate about protecting others from similar incidents. The next question is, how do you stay updated with the latest cybersecurity trends and threats? Talk about industry blogs, podcasts, or conferences you follow. Mention any professional organizations you're a part of. A good answer might be, I regularly follow cybersecurity blogs like Krebs on Security and attend the annual Black Hat Conference. I'm also an active member of ISACA, which provides resources and networking opportunities. Additionally, I've set up custom alerts for new CVs in my areas of expertise. Moving on, you might be asked, describe a time when you had to explain a complex technical issue to a non-technical person. Use a specific example from your past experience. Highlight your communication skills and ability to simplify complex technical issues. Here's a sample response. Once, I had to explain the importance of multi-factor authentication to our sales team. I used the analogy of a house with multiple locks, which helped them understand the concept quickly. By the end of the meeting, they were enthusiastic about implementing it for their accounts.
The next question in line is, how do you handle stress in high-pressure situations? Discuss your strategies for staying calm and focused. You could mention techniques like prioritizing or deep breathing. A sample answer might be, I find that staying organized and prioritizing tasks helps me manage stress effectively. During high-pressure incidents, I focus on deep breathing and tackling one task at a time to maintain clarity and efficiency. If I feel overwhelmed, I take a short break to practice deep breathing exercises. This helps me reset and approach the situation with a clear mind. Now, let's shift gears to some competency-based questions. The next question you might encounter is, what tools and technologies are you proficient in for cybersecurity analysis? List relevant tools like Wireshark, MAP, or SIEM systems you've used. Briefly explain how you've applied these tools in real-world scenarios. Here's a possible response. I'm proficient with Wireshark for packet analysis, MAP for network discovery, and Splunk as a SIEM solution. For instance, I recently used Wireshark to identify and trace the source of anomalous traffic that turned out to be an attempted DDoS attack.
Moving forward, you might be asked, can you explain the concept of defense in depth? Define the term as a multi-layered security approach. Provide examples of different security layers like firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and encryption. A sample answer could be, defense in depth is a strategy that employs multiple layers of security controls. It's like having several locks on your door. For example, we might use firewalls at the network perimeter, implement intrusion detection systems, use encryption for sensitive data, and require multi-factor authentication for access. This way, if one layer is compromised, others are still in place to protect our assets. The next question in our lineup is, how do you approach vulnerability assessments? Outline your step-by-step process for identifying and evaluating vulnerabilities. Mention tools you might use and how you prioritize findings. Here's how you could answer. I start by defining the scope and objectives of the assessment. Then I use a combination of automated scanning tools like Nessus and manual testing. After gathering data, I analyze the results, prioritize vulnerabilities based on their potential impact and exploitability, and create a detailed report with recommended remediation steps.
Now, let's tackle, what's your experience with incident response? Describe your role in previous incident response situations. Highlight your ability to act quickly and follow established protocols. A sample response might be, in my current role, I've been part of our incident response team for 3 years. I've handled various incidents, from malware outbreaks to attempted data breaches. My responsibilities include initial triage, containment actions, and coordinating with other teams for full resolution. I always ensure we follow our established IR playbooks and document every step for post-incident review.
The next question delves into compliance. How do you ensure compliance with security policies and regulations? Discuss your familiarity with common regulations like GDPR or HIPAA. Explain how you've implemented or maintained compliance in previous roles. Here's an example answer. I stay up to date with relevant regulations like GDPR and HIPAA. In my last role, I led a project to ensure GDPR compliance. This involved conducting a data audit, updating privacy policies, and implementing new data protection measures. I also conducted regular audits and staff training to maintain ongoing compliance. Moving on, you might be asked about risk management. What's your approach to risk management in cybersecurity? Outline your process for identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks. Mention any frameworks you're familiar with, like NIST or ISO 27001. A possible response could be, I follow the NIST framework for risk management. This involves identifying assets, threats, and vulnerabilities, assessing potential risks and impacts, and implementing appropriate controls. I also ensure we regularly review and update our risk assessments to account for new threats or changes in our infrastructure. The next question focuses on ethics. How do you stay ethical in your cybersecurity practices? Discuss the importance of integrity and following legal and ethical guidelines. You could mention adherence to a professional code of ethics. Here's a sample response. Ethics is paramount in cybersecurity. I adhere to the ISC Superscript 2 Code of Ethics, which emphasizes protecting society, acting honorably, providing diligent service, and advancing the profession. In practice, this means always obtaining proper authorization before testing, respecting privacy, and being transparent about our security measures and any incidents. Let's continue with more competency-based questions. The next question dives into cloud security. What's your experience with cloud security? Discuss your familiarity with cloud platforms and their security features. Mention any relevant certifications or projects involving cloud security. Here's a possible response. I've worked extensively with AWS and Azure, implementing security best practices for cloud deployments. I'm AWS Security Certified and have experience with configuring security groups, IAM policies, and implementing encryption for data at rest and in transit. Recently, I led a project to migrate our on-premises applications to the cloud, ensuring all security controls were properly translated to the new environment. Moving on, you might be asked about training. How do you approach security awareness training for employees? Outline strategies for engaging and effective training sessions. Mention the importance of regular updates and measuring the training's impact. A sample answer could be, I believe in making security awareness training engaging and relevant. I use a mix of online modules, in-person workshops, and simulated phishing exercises. I tailor content to different departments, using real-world examples they might encounter. I also ensure we conduct regular refresher courses and measure the effectiveness through metrics like reduced click rates on phishing tests. The next question focuses on a crucial aspect of cybersecurity. What's your understanding of threat intelligence? Define threat intelligence and its importance in proactive security. Discuss how you've used threat intelligence in previous roles. Here's how you could answer. Threat intelligence is the collection and analysis of information about current and potential attacks threatening an organization. It's crucial for proactive security. In my current role, I use threat intelligence to update our firewall rules and IDS signatures. I also participate in information sharing groups within our industry to stay ahead of emerging threats. Another important question you might face is, how do you prioritize security alerts? Explain your method for triaging alerts based on severity and potential impact. Mention any tools or frameworks you use for alert management. A sample response might be, I use a risk-based approach to prioritize alerts. I consider factors like potential impact on critical assets, the likelihood of the threat, and our current vulnerabilities. We use a CM tool that helps categorize alerts, and I've set up custom rules for initial triage. For high-priority alerts, I ensure immediate investigation and response. The next question is, what's your experience with penetration testing? Discuss your familiarity with different types of penetration tests. Explain how you interpret and act on pen test results. Here's an example answer. I've both conducted and coordinated penetration tests, including network, application, and social engineering tests. I'm familiar with tools like Metasploit and Burp Suite. When interpreting results, I focus on understanding the potential business impact of each finding. I then work with development and operations teams to prioritize and address the most critical vulnerabilities first, always ensuring we retest to confirm success. Now, let's tackle some situational questions. The next question you might encounter is, you notice unusual network traffic during a routine check. What steps do you take? Outline a systematic approach. Isolate the affected systems, analyze the traffic, and escalate if necessary. Emphasize the importance of documenting your findings and actions. Here's how you might respond. First, I'd isolate the systems showing unusual traffic to prevent potential spread. Then, I'd use our network monitoring tools to analyze the traffic patterns and compare them to our baselines. If confirmed suspicious, I'd immediately initiate our incident response plan. This involves containing the breach, assessing its scope and impact, documenting my findings, and escalating to the incident response team. Throughout the process, I'd maintain clear communication and documentation. Now, let's consider, a colleague suggests taking a shortcut that violates security policy. How do you respond? Stress the importance of following established procedures. Explain how you'd communicate the risks and find a compliant alternative. A sample answer could be, I would explain to my colleague why following the security policy is crucial. I'd outline the potential risks of the shortcut and how it could impact our overall security posture. Then, I'd work with them to find a solution that achieves their goal while still complying with our policies. If needed, I'd involve our manager to ensure we're aligned with company procedures.
The next question poses a critical scenario. You discover a potential data breach. Walk me through your response. Detail your immediate actions, containment, assessment of the breach's scope, and notification of relevant parties. Highlight the importance of following the organization's incident response plan. Here's an example response. My first step would be to contain the breach by isolating affected systems. Then, I'd assess the scope of the breach, what data was affected, how it happened, and who is responsible. I'd immediately notify our incident response team and management as per our IR plan. We'd then work on eradicating the threat, recovering affected systems, and notifying any impacted parties as required by law. Throughout, I'd maintain detailed documentation for later analysis and potential legal requirements. Moving on, you might be asked, how would you explain the need for a costly security upgrade to senior management? Emphasize the importance of translating technical needs into business terms. Discuss how you'd prepare a cost-benefit analysis and highlight potential risks of not upgrading. A possible answer might be, I'd prepare a presentation that translates the technical need into business impact. This would include a cost-benefit analysis, showing potential losses from a security incident versus the cost of the upgrade. I'd also highlight any compliance requirements we might fail without the upgrade. By framing it in terms of risk management and potential ROI, I can help management understand the necessity of the investment. The next question deals with employee behavior. A new employee is consistently careless with their login credentials. How do you address this? Explain your approach to education and awareness training. Mention the possibility of implementing stricter access controls if necessary. Here's a sample response. I'd start with a one-on-one conversation to understand if they're aware of our security policies. Then, I'd provide targeted training on the importance of credentials and the potential risks of carelessness. If the behavior persists, I'd escalate to their manager and recommend additional security measures, such as enforcing multi-factor authentication or implementing more frequent password changes for their account.
Another important question focuses on policy improvement. You're tasked with improving our company's password policy. What changes would you recommend? Discuss best practices like password length, complexity, and regular changes. Mention the possibility of implementing multi-factor authentication. A possible answer could be, I'd recommend increasing the minimum password length to 16 characters, requiring a mix of character types, and encouraging the use of password managers. Instead of frequent mandatory changes, I'd suggest implementing a system that requires changes only when there's suspicious activity or compromise. Most importantly, I'd strongly advocate for implementing multi-factor authentication across all systems to provide an extra layer of security beyond passwords. The next question in our list is, how would you handle a disagreement with a team member about a security implementation? Emphasize the importance of open communication and considering different perspectives. Explain how you'd use data and best practices to support your position. Here's how you might respond. I'd start by listening to my team members' concerns and perspective. Then, I'd present my viewpoint, backed by industry best practices and data. If we still disagree, I'd suggest bringing in a third party, like our team lead, to provide another perspective. The goal would be to reach a consensus that prioritizes our security needs while addressing everyone's concerns. And the last one in this section is, you suspect an insider threat. How do you investigate without causing panic? Discuss the need for discretion and following proper channels. Explain how you'd gather evidence while respecting privacy laws and company policies. A sample answer might be, I'd discreetly report my suspicions to the appropriate authority, likely my manager or the head of security. Then, I'd work with them to gather evidence for this investigation, ensuring we comply with all privacy laws and company policies. This might involve reviewing access logs or monitoring network activity. It's crucial to maintain confidentiality throughout the process to prevent unnecessary panic or false accusations. And finally, let's wrap up with a few more behavioral questions. The next question is about adaptability. Describe a time when you had to learn a new technology quickly for a project. Highlight your ability to adapt and learn independently. Mention the steps you took to acquire the new skill efficiently. A possible response could be, in my previous role, we had to quickly implement a new CM solution. I had no prior experience with this particular tool, so I immersed myself in learning. I took online courses, practiced in a test environment, and reached out to colleagues who had used it before. Within 2 weeks, I was proficient enough to lead the implementation and train my team members. Moving on, you might be asked about time management. How do you handle conflicting priorities in your work? Discuss your approach to time management and prioritization. Provide an example of how you've balanced multiple tasks effectively. Here's a sample answer. I use a combination of urgency and importance to prioritize tasks. I maintain a detailed task list and regularly review it with my manager to ensure alignment on priorities. For example, when simultaneously dealing with a system upgrade and a security audit, I delegated parts of the upgrade to team members while focusing on critical audit areas myself. This allowed both high-priority tasks to be completed on time. The next question tests your ability to learn from mistakes. Tell me about a time you made a mistake in your security analysis. How did you handle it? Be honest about the mistake and focus on what you learned from it. Explain the steps you took to correct the error and prevent similar issues in the future. A sample response might be, once, I misclassified a critical vulnerability as low risk due to a misunderstanding of its potential impact. When I realized my mistake, I immediately informed my manager and the remediation team. I then reevaluated all recent assessments to ensure no similar errors. This experience led me to implement a peer review process for all high-stakes analyses, which has improved our overall accuracy. Another important question focuses on collaboration. How do you collaborate with other departments to ensure overall security? Emphasize your communication skills and ability to work cross-functionally. Provide an example of a successful collaboration with another team. Here's how you might answer. I believe security is everyone's responsibility, so I strive to build strong relationships across departments. For instance, I worked closely with the development team to implement security best practices in our SDLC. I conducted workshops to help them understand security requirements and worked alongside them to find solutions that enhance security without hindering productivity. This collaboration resulted in a 40% reduction in vulnerabilities found in production code. And the final question looks to the future. Where do you see the field of cybersecurity heading in the next 5 years? Show your forward-thinking approach and awareness of industry trends. Mention emerging technologies or threats you believe will shape the field. Here's a possible response. I believe AI and machine learning will play a bigger role in threat detection and response. We'll likely see more sophisticated attacks targeting IoT devices and cloud infrastructure. There will also be an increased focus on privacy regulations and securing emerging technologies like 5G networks. And there you have it, 30 of the most common interview questions for cybersecurity analysts. I hope this helps you feel more prepared for your upcoming interviews. Remember, the key is to be honest, showcase your skills, and demonstrate your passion for cybersecurity. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more career tips. Got any other interview questions you'd like covered? Drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your cybersecurity career.